Welcome back, MTN Giants podcast. What a week it's been in Giants world. You know, last Sunday they lose to the Panthers, which is embarrassing, and the way it happened was crazy too, just losing a fumble, first play of overtime. Obviously, as a person that wants the first overall pick, that was nice to see, but just still embarrassing that they lost that game still. And I can't believe it. Like, I went back and watched my preview of that game, and I was so confident the Giants would win that game, and it was stupid. I should not have confidence in this Giants team. A lot of other stuff happened. There was a Joe Schoen press conference, and if you came away more confident in Joe Schoen after that press conference, I'm not sure what you were watching. I wasn't too thrilled about it myself, but we'll talk about some of the main quotes in there. Daniel Jones getting benched. Maybe. We'll see. People like Diana Rossini are reporting that the Giants may not bench Jones for another couple weeks or so. I don't know what to believe. I guess I'll give my answer during the video. I just cannot see how they put Jones back out there, but nothing would surprise me with this organization. And there is, of course, that, I guess, theory that Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll are using Daniel Jones as a shield to basically put all the blame on him, which I guess in the press conference, Joe Schoen somewhat alluded to that as well, but obviously, you can't come out and say it, but I do believe at this point that they're trying to use Daniel Jones as the excuse as to why this team is so bad. And it's funny because they're the same regime that gave him a 4-year, $160 million contract. And now, a year and a half later, you're basically turning into a snake and trying to pin why this team sucks on that guy that you gave $160 million to. So none of that really makes sense. I'll talk about the quarterback class as well in 2025. I'll admit, I'll just say it up front, I watched maybe 2 games each of Milroe, Sanders, and Cam Ward. So don't take my evaluations like too serious, but I at least gave them a couple games each of watching every play. So anyway, hope you guys enjoy. Leave a like. I didn't do questions for this video. I'm sorry. So if you have like a question in the comments or something, I'll reply. I should have done that though. That's my fault. I mean, there is a lot to talk about here, so I don't want this video to be like, an hour long. And of course, we have the spread picks at the end where it didn't go as well as last week. That was tough to replicate, but still about 500. So hope you guys enjoy and let's get into it. I want to start with the Joe Schoen press conference, and just my takeaways were he seemed defensive, definitely. He seemed like a guy trying to sell something to ownership. He somewhat seemed political to me, and maybe it's because of the last few months of the politics being big, but it just wasn't a great look once again. And there were phrases used multiple times by Joe Schoen, and I'll go over them here. One was, "we're not far off," and I do want to talk about people on Twitter were arguing about, are the Giants a quarterback away? And I think the biggest problem with this phrase, quarterback away, is some people look at quarterback away as being a playoff team. Can you be 8-9, 9-8, 10-7? Some people look at quarterback away as, can you win a Super Bowl? And those are two very different things. We saw the 2022 Giants. They were a playoff team. They were no way in hell going to win a Super Bowl. So being a playoff team, being a Super Bowl team, two very different things. So I think when people say quarterback away, some fans are looking at it as, are we just a playoff team or are we competing for Super Bowls? I personally look at it as, you're a playoff team. I think when you're a quarterback away, I look at it as, can you be a competitive team who has at least 8 wins, 9 wins, and above? When I think of the Giants, I say they are a quarterback away. I think Daniel Jones holds this team back in a lot of ways, in ways where it even affects the defense, because the defense at some point, they start to lose hope because the offense is so freaking bad. And with competent quarterback play, like a top 10 guy, let's say the Giants had I don't want to say a Lamar or a Mahomes, that's like too far ahead, but let's say the Giants had a Matthew Stafford, who of course at one point was rumored to go to the Giants, which has died down, thank God, since the trade deadline. But let's say the Giants had a Matthew Stafford. Instead of being 2-8 right now, would they be 4-6, 5-5? I think absolutely. I think with better quarterback play, this team is probably right around 500, and the season's not over yet. So can Matthew Stafford get this team to 8 or 9 wins on the year? Yeah, probably can. So I think they're a quarterback away from making the playoffs or being a borderline playoff team, a borderline wild card team. They're a quarterback away in that sense, but are they a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl team? Probably not, right? And Joe Schoen did talk about the Texans of 2022 and the Commanders of Texans of 2023 and the Commanders of this year, 2024, how they got a quarterback and everything changed, right? He specifically pointed out CJ Stroud. And the thing about those teams are they did have new head coaches, right? You think about DeMeco Ryans last year, first-time head coach. You think about Dan Quinn with Washington this year, not a first-time head coach, but first year in Washington. And that's a big part of it as well. And I do want to talk about Brian Daboll's job security real quick. I do think if the Giants finished a year 0-7 or 1-6, I think Brian Daboll is probably gone. But I do think if they finish better than that, and at least look good and they're in games and whatnot, then I do think he'll be safe. That's how I look at it. For Joe Schoen, I feel like Joe Schoen is safe regardless. I really do feel John Mara thinks he has the right guy. I'm not saying I agree with that. If I was John Mara, I'd probably let go of both of these guys, honestly, because I've seen too much incompetence the past few years. But I think John Mara really does believe that Joe Schoen's a smart GM, right? He looks at things differently than Gettleman did by a lot. And John Mara may not love the Saquon decision, but it was ultimately the right decision, right? Joe Schoen looks at things from an analytical sense. Dave Gettleman was more, what does the tape say? Gettleman was stuck in the 1980s, 1990s. At least for Joe Schoen, he is a bit more with the times, and maybe at times is too analytical, which may have led him to let go of Saquon Barkley and let go of Xavier McKinney in favor of Brian Burns. So not every Joe Schoen move is great, obviously, but he does do things that a modern GM should do as compared to what we previously had. But the bar was so low with Gettleman, just because Joe Schoen does the bare minimum of what a modern GM does, it doesn't mean he should stay. But I think John Mara does look at it that way, that he has a guy who at least has a good vision and does things the right way. So I do think Joe Schoen will be safe regardless. I'm sure they'll cut Daniel Jones after the year, although he is the cockroach who won't die. But we'll see about that. Back to phrases Joe Schoen had during the press conference. He kept saying, we have the youngest defense in the league. Okay. I do see progress. We're going to evaluate this week. We're 2-8. He kept saying that as well. He's like, oh, we're 2-8. It's not where you want to be. It's not what we want. But so he kept saying that over and over again. But it just felt like a guy trying to prove to ownership, like, yeah, we have all these good young players. We're 1-5 in one-score games. We're right there, right? We're just having an unlucky year. And I'm like, I'm not really on board with all that. So we'll see how Mara looks at it. I think the most funny and awkward part of the press conference was the Dan Duggan question about, do you have any regrets about how you handled the quarterback room? And I'll play it for you guys here just so you can see if you haven't.
Do you wish you did anything differently addressing the quarterback position? I mean, I would say specifically Russell Wilson obviously was in here and not pursuing him more aggressively, or just in general, anything you wish you would have done differently?
I mean, you're talking specifically on the quarterback position?
Specifically on the quarterback, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no.
So where you're at with the quarterback, you think this is the best that could have been this season?
With the options that were available?
Yeah, like Russell.
And just the way he answers this question, he goes, I mean, no, and then just leaves it like that. He wanted to say yes so badly. I think he realizes I messed up with the quarterback room, and there have to be some regrets there, and there should be. You had Russell Wilson, right? I mean, if the Giants had guaranteed Russell Wilson to be the starter, he'd probably be here right now. All right, that's just the truth. They wouldn't guarantee Russell Wilson to be the starter, and now he's in Pittsburgh and playing very well. And if it were up to me, like even coming into this year, if I had Russell Wilson in my building and I knew Daniel Jones was the other alternative coming off an ACL and 2 neck injuries, I would give Russell Wilson the quarterback 1 job right then and there. There would be no competition. I would be like, you're the guy. Right? I know people look at Russell Wilson in Denver and you're like, oh, that guy sucked in Denver. He was awful. But you look at last year's numbers, what Russell Wilson did last year, in a down year, quote unquote, was better than anything Daniel Jones has done. I think Russell Wilson last year had a 27-7 touchdown to interception ratio. I know having Sean Payton helps, obviously, but the guy's wide receiver 1 was Cortland Sutton. It's not like it was Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase. So I feel like Russell Wilson was the no-brainer to give him the contract and give him the starting job. Of course, they remain loyal to Daniel Jones, which they always do, and it bites them in the ass, and I can't feel bad for them because of that. So he definitely wanted to say yes about having regrets over the quarterback room. There was also a question he dodged about losing McKinney, Julian Love, and Saquon Barkley. And instead of answering that question, he basically just deflects it and goes, well, Tyler Nubin's played 99% of snaps, and he's up there in rookie tackle leaders, and Tyrone Tracy is leading rookies in rushing yards, and just basically just doesn't even answer the question and just goes right to his draft class. And I think he mentioned Theo Johnson as well, who Theo Johnson's a guy I really liked in the draft coming into it. And I was happy the Giants took him, but I can't say he's been that impressive. He's been okay, but he's not like a great building block. I can't look at him and be like, oh, that guy might be the next George Kittle. I don't know. He might just be another Daniel Bellinger for all we know. I hope he turns into something more. I definitely have more hope for Theo Johnson than I did Daniel Bellinger, but I can't say from what we've seen so far that, oh, Theo Johnson's going to be this great tight end. I don't know. He looks okay, but we'll see. And a funny part is, so he mentioned Tyler Nubin here in a good way, but then later in the press conference, 10 minutes later, when they were talking about Deonte Banks, he mentions the play where CeeDee Lamb scored that 55-yard touchdown on Thursday. It was week 4 or something, Thursday Night Football. And on that play that Joe Schoen mentioned, he was like, oh, the safety took a bad angle. That safety was Tyler Nubin. The guy you were just hyping up 10 minutes ago was the guy who made the mistake on that play you brought up when you said, oh, the safety took a bad angle. Well, that safety was Tyler Nubin. And that was kind of funny to me. But anyway, he brought up that they're 1-5 in one-score games. Bro, I don't care. Most NFL games are one-score games. I mean, that's just the truth of it, and you suck. Right? Your team can't score in the red zone. You have a defense that's very inconsistent, as we know. They aren't getting enough stops, of course, and you have an offense that's ranked dead last in the NFL. That's a big part of this. The offense sucks. The defense is they have their moments, but overall they're not anything great. I'm not a big Shane Bowen guy so far. This was a big quote for Shane in terms of give me more time. There was one of the writers asked about, I forget what he asked exactly, but basically Joe Shane's answer was, well, when you were first a journalist, are you better now than you were back then? You probably were, right? And then Joe Shane was like, well, I'm better at my job now than I was back in 2021, 2022. I'm like, what kind of analogy is this? This guy is trying so hard to sell to John Mara. See, I'm evolving. I'm learning on the job. Give me some more time. The way he answered that question was so weird to me. He said, I think anybody in their job, you as a writer, I'm sure you're better your third or fourth year than you were your first year. I'm like, okay, dude. So he's trying to say, I'm growing, I'm evolving. I mean, yeah, of course, you should be better in your fourth year than you are your first year. No shit. But if the results aren't there, they aren't there. I've said time and time again, I think 3 off seasons is more than enough time for a GM to show who he is and turn a franchise around. If you're not doing it yet, then what are you doing? This big question here, I forget who asked it. I just have the transcript here. But has ownership told you that you'll definitely be back? Shane said, I communicate with ownership all the time. I know Dabes talks about that continuously each time these questions come up, and we have a really good relationship with ownership, and we communicate constantly with them. And there's confidence in the plan and where we're heading. I don't know about you guys. I don't know how there can be confidence in the direction they're heading. They might have a plan behind the scenes that looks great, and maybe John Mara is completely buying into it. But just for how things look right now, losing to the Panthers, being 2-8, and your team literally regressing every year from 2022 to now, I don't know how you can look at this situation and feel like things are on the right track and the plan is going well and we're heading in the right direction. I don't know how you can use those cliches and look at where they're at right now. So maybe I'm the one who's not seeing it, but I just feel like in 2022 things looked a lot better than they do right now. And of course, majority of it comes down to you effed up with the quarterback situation, and when you don't have the right quarterback, it's hard to win in this league, but it's still a decision you made. And there was a quote about red zone efficiency. This is what Joe Schoen said about the Giants' red zone offense. He goes, I would say the red zone is important, and we're last in the league in the red zone. So we're moving the ball, we're getting down there, we get in critical situations, and we're 32nd in the red zone. We got to find a way to put the ball in the end zone, and that's a big part of it. Okay, very logical. Here's where I'm hung up. You signed the quarterback whose career year was 15 passing touchdowns. And now here you are 2 years later bitching about why the offense is bad in the red zone. What do you think was going to happen? This was what's going to happen. Daniel Jones is not the type of quarterback that when you cut the field down and have to make really accurate pinpoint throws, it doesn't get better for him. It gets worse. We've seen this guy operate in the red zone for years. It's year 6. And when you signed him, it was after year 4. And you have enough evidence that when he gets down to the red zone, shit don't go well. Because you have to be so pinpoint and know where guys are and throw with anticipation, things he does not do. And now you're sitting here like, whoa, we're 32nd in red zone offense. Sorry, that was mean. But anyway, next topic. I thought it was funny throughout the week. This is kind of off topic. How people basically kept saying, source, Daniel Jones will be benched for Drew Lock. When in reality, you probably don't have a source. People saying that were just saying it to act like they had sources because that's the more logical thing that should happen. So even someone like me, who I don't really have sources, like maybe once in a while someone will tell me something, but for the most part, I could have been like, oh, sources are telling me Daniel Jones will be benched for Drew Lock. Like, yeah, anyone could have said that, and it might not even happen now, so we'll see. But that was kind of funny how people were trying to act like they had sources throughout the week. Diana Rossini, I did put this tweet in the graphic behind me, or right next to me, that she basically said that the Giants may not pull the plug on Daniel Jones yet. Then she came out after and said, at this time, the Giants have not informed their quarterbacks or the team about who will start moving forward. We will know more Monday, she said. The head coach and GM have left the door open for change. So I don't know what to believe. I guess there is still a small chance that Jones starts against Tampa Bay week 12, which if they do that, it will be one of the more insane things I'll ever have seen a team do. But this is the Giants we're talking about, so I'm not going to try and say it's like too outlandish. But I feel like for me and any other fan that wants to see this guy gone, it would just be such a slap in the face. Like that should have been it. Carolina loss in Germany, like that should be it. That should be the end of Daniel Jones. But if they throw him out there in week 12, it would be a bit surprising, but this is the Giants. It really is, so we don't know. I wanted to bring this up. So I had an argument with a friend of a friend the other day. We were on Discord just playing some Call of Duty, so we were talking about Joe Schoen, and this one guy I was talking to was saying that Joe Schoen basically should not be penalized because in 2022, we were specifically talking about that draft. So the first round of 2022, the Giants have the 5th and 7th overall pick. And this guy was telling me Joe Schoen should not really be held accountable because he was drafting based off consensus and that everybody should make those picks. And while there is some truth to that, it didn't really sit right with me because you are a GM of a National Football League team. You are getting paid millions of dollars to make the right call. Just because Mel Kiper has it on his draft board or somebody else, it doesn't mean that's the right pick. There's teams that go against the grain and sometimes it works. Oftentimes it doesn't because trying to be the smart guy in the room often doesn't work. But at the same time, you're paid to make the right choices. If the results are bad, it should be held against you. I don't care if Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeau were the consensus picks to make. It doesn't matter. Right? In the time, I was so happy when they drafted those guys. I'll admit, I would have done it too, right? So I'm not the GM though. I'm not making millions of dollars. I'm not scouting 12 months of the year. I'm not interviewing these guys. I'm not going to their pro days, the combine. I don't know. I don't have the access Joe Schoen has. But in the event that Kayvon Thibodeau goes on to be like a average starting defensive end and Evan Neal flames out after 5 years, shouldn't that be held against the guy who drafted those guys? I mean, I think it should. I mean, you guys let me know in the comments, but I really do think it's a results-driven business. Right, it really is. The NFL, like, we don't care how you get there, but if you win the Super Bowl, that's great. We don't care how you get there, but if the process looks great, but you're still winning 5 games every year, that's a problem. You're going to be held accountable eventually. So, I don't know, do you guys side with me on that or the other guy? Because I feel like you should be held responsible for the results. And so far, the results of the Kayvon and Neal picks have not been good. So I just wanted to put that out there. And even drafting like Wandale in the 2nd round over George Pickens or Josh Ezeudu in the 3rd round. Cordell Flott was a 3rd round pick. Things like that. Like Joe Schoen, while 2022's first round was consensus, he'll do things like what I just mentioned with Wandale, Ezeudu, and Flott. those guys did not go where people thought they would go. They were big reaches in people's minds. Even Drew Phillips, which so far has turned out well, so maybe he hits on that one. But those three guys I just mentioned, like, they were big reaches at the time. So in conclusion, as we sit here in week 11 of 2024, this is what I think happens. I will say they cut Daniel Jones after the year. That should be a no-brainer. If the Giants go any worse than 2-5 over the last 7 games, I think Brian Daboll's fired. So if it's 1-6 or 0-7, I think Brian Daboll's gone, which would be unfortunate. I do think Joe Schoen's going to be safe regardless. I really get that feeling with John Mara. I could be wrong. And like, these things change, of course, right? You think about Joe Judge in 2021. He was safe halfway through the year. He talked himself out of that job. I'm sure Pat Shurmur in 2019 was safe halfway through the year. Things change. So things could change. But I feel like John Mara thinks Joe Schoen's like a really smart GM. I think John Mara feels he has the right guy. So personally, I think Joe Schoen, in the event that they go 1-6, 0-7, will get a shot at hiring a second head coach. Unfortunately, Brian Daboll and Daniel Jones, to a degree, will be the fall guys. They'll be the scapegoats. But I don't know. I personally feel they should be fired together. They came in together. I see no reason why one guy should stay, the other should go. I think Brian Daboll's coaching is not necessarily the reason why they're 2-8. I think it's a lot more with roster decisions. If you give any head coach Daniel Jones and Drew Lock, what are they supposed to do? I don't see anybody winning with that, right? So I feel for Brian Daboll. I feel like he's kind of getting screwed here, but this is what you signed up for, and you did. I guess we're ultimately on board with signing Daniel Jones to the big contract, but I do believe Schoen will be safe. I would be surprised if Schoen's fired at this point, which I don't like. I'd rather see him gone. I'm not like a big Schoen believer at this point, but ultimately I think he stays. Daboll's gone if the record's horrible, the final 7, and I think Jones obviously is gone regardless. So, Tankathon update for you guys. The Giants are still picking second. We got to root for teams like Jacksonville, Tennessee, Cleveland, Las Vegas. Let's see who they play this week, because I know 2 of these teams are not going to win, obviously. Like the Jaguars, they play the Lions. They're not winning that game, right? Detroit, they're favored by 13.5 points. The Raiders play the Dolphins. I doubt they win that game. The Browns play the Saints. They could win that one. That's very possible. The Titans play the Vikings. The Titans are home. I could see that happening, but for the other 2, I see no chance in hell that the Jaguars win. I'd be very surprised if the Raiders won. The Raiders they have a new offensive coordinator now. I forget who it is, but they fired the other guy. So like maybe they come out with a great offensive game plan and things look great. And I do want to predict the rest of the Giants season while we're here. So of course the Giants, as I said, they have 7 games left, and the schedule goes like this. They're home versus Tampa. I would say Tampa beats the Giants. Tampa will be coming off a bye. I don't think Tampa's like that well coached, but I think Baker Mayfield has reached a status in the NFL where he's no doubt like a top 15 quarterback, might be top 10. He's making things work, and they should get Mike Evans back too, hopefully. I really hope he comes back for that game. Even if he's a decoy, like, I'll take it. But with Kate Otten and Rashad White and whoever else, I mean, Bucky Irving has been a great rookie for them. They're finding ways to score points, so they'll be in the game, obviously. I think the Buccaneers win that one. The following week, a short week, week 13, Thanksgiving, the Giants are at the Cowboys. Not sure if it's Cooper Rush or Trey Lance yet, but Cowboys suck right now. I think the Giants could win that game. It would not be too surprising, but the Giants, then again, have not won in Dallas in a very long time. So I feel like it's a toss-up. I think I'll be nice. I'll be nice and say the Giants get one of these next 2 games. I think they either win Thanksgiving at Dallas or they win home versus the Saints. So I'm giving them 1 and 2 over these next 3 games. Then you're home versus Baltimore, automatic L. You're at the Falcons. The Falcons, like, they lost to the Saints this past week, so you never know. But the Falcons should beat the Giants, I would think. The Colts are hosting the Giants. No, the Giants, are hosting the Colts in Week 17. Probably going to be a 1 o'clock game. They gave Richardson the starting quarterback job back. I think Richardson will have a better final 7, 8 games, whatever it is, 6 games. So I think the Colts will win that game, and then they're at Philly. And I have a very bad feeling about this game because Philly would beat the Giants, obviously, if they played their guys. Philly is the type of team, and Howie Roseman would do this, where if the Eagles had things locked up, they would 100% play their ass players to lose that game and give the Giants a worse pick. That's like the 4D chess that the Eagles would play. I have a very bad feeling about that week. I hope I'm wrong. At the most here, I would say maximum 3 wins, the final 7 games. So they're under 500. I would say 2 wins is probably the most likely. 1 win is probably a little less likely. And 0 wins, I mean, I don't see them going 0-7. It'd be sweet. I would love to get the first overall pick, but I do think they'll win some game here. I think their best chance is at Dallas with that whole quarterback situation, home versus New Orleans, and maybe even home versus the Colts. I think those are their best chances of winning. So I think they finished the year with like maybe 4 wins. They'll finish 4-13. There's a chance for 3-14. I mean, maybe they get to 5 wins and end up 5-12. But either way, that's a shitty record. So I mean, I don't know why they would bring these guys back, but we'll see how these final 7 games go. All right, so I went over the Giants' record prediction. I do want to talk about the quarterback class. I do want to talk about that, and then we'll do the spread picks. It's probably a long video, but that's what bye weeks do to you. So for the 2025 quarterback class, I mentioned I watched 3 guys, Cam Ward, Jalen Milroe, and Shedeur Sanders. Now, I mentioned I didn't watch a lot of them. I watched 2 full games of each, so take it with a grain of salt. For Cam Ward, I can see it. I see the poise in the pocket. I mean, I'll go through the pros and cons. So I do like how Cam Ward can throw from different arm slots. Like, that stuff is pretty unique, and I like a quarterback that can do that. He's very calm in the pocket, a lot of poise. He can extend plays. He can roll out to his left and make throws. His arm is definitely good enough for the NFL. Mobility is pretty good. It's not great. He's not like super fast, but good enough mobility. He does go through his reads. There are times where the line will give him a lot of time. Like, the Miami offensive line, they must have their great moments, because there were plenty of plays where he would just have all day to stand back there and scan the field, which makes it much easier. You think about some of the Ohio State quarterbacks in the past, like they would have so much time to scan the field. It makes them look better, and that's why a lot of Ohio State quarterbacks, when they get to a less ideal situation in the NFL, they don't look as good. So I don't really want to put that on Cam Ward, but that is a possibility. Some of the cons, he does hold on to the ball too long. He does backpedal a lot too, which for some guys it works. Like Jordan Love has some crazy backpedaling throws once in a while, but more times than not, it probably goes shitty. Inconsistent with accuracy. He does make some bad decisions, not incredibly fast. Like, Jalen Milroe is a different level athlete than Cam Ward. Ultimately, he should be a first-round pick. I'm not sure where he'll go, but I'm sure some team will take him top 10, and yeah. So, Jalen Milroe, he's as good as it gets as a runner. He is powerful. He is fast. Type of guy who, if he ran for 800 yards, 900, even 1,000 in the NFL, it would not be the most shocking thing. So I think Milroe will be an incredible runner. He's good with the RPO, short passes type stuff, which like Dable can do that. Dable runs that once in a while. So I think Milroe would be a good fit for the Giants, honestly, based on Dable's scheme, assuming he's still here. He does make some nice throws on the run. He like throws off one leg sometimes, and he'll chuck it 60 yards. Like, he does have a pretty good arm too. The problem is the accuracy. The deep ball accuracy got to be better. I don't think he'll scare teams as a passer, at least right now. I'm not seeing a lot of anticipation throws from what I watched. He like kind of has to see it open first, which is like a Daniel Jones trait, which scares me. And he doesn't have a great feel for the pocket. I would say Cam Ward is definitely better in terms of like pocket feel. Just guys who like they just spin out at the right time, and they just know how to dodge pass rushers in a phone booth. Like, Milroe is okay at it, but I feel like Cam Ward was different. You know, he was a different level. And I think Milroe, I don't think he's guaranteed to go top 10, but I would say he goes in the first round. I think somebody will take a shot on those traits, and he's like Daniel Jones, but better, right? He's Daniel Jones, but a much better runner. I think the ceiling is definitely higher. So, I mean, I don't want to put it on him. I don't want to say he's Daniel Jones. That's a bit rough, but I don't know. I think Milroe can turn into something, but a lot of stuff as a passer has to be a bit more polished. For Shedeur Sanders, who did play today, I did want to see what he was doing. I know he threw a pick on the first play, so that was rough. Colorado did score 49 points, so I'm assuming Sanders had a pretty nice day with the statistics. He was 30 of 41, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, 340 yards. I mean, yeah, not a bad day. I do want to see like what happened. I don't want to just box score watch, but I was curious what happened. So he has W genetics. I wrote that down because obviously his father was quite the athlete. Accuracy is a plus, throws well on the run, he can maneuver the pocket, he has a great throwing motion, looks like a natural passer, extends plays, he'll have some crazy pocket movement, like he's a guy who feels the pocket very well. He just has a great feel for the game. I feel like he knows what to do in the right situations. I mean, just some of the intangibles it's stuff you can't teach. He can make defenders miss in a phone booth in the pocket. I mean, I love that stuff. Like, that stuff we don't really have with Jones. And like, Jones might do it like twice a year, but like, there's guys that do it multiple times every week. I feel like Sanders could be that guy where you have a defensive end right in your face and you just do like a quick little like juke move and you get out of it somehow. Like, I love watching that stuff. The cons, I would say the arm is pretty good. It's not elite. And I saw somebody say this. Was it Nate Tice or Nate Tice's co-host? Dane Brugler. He said it, I think it was. Yeah, Dane Brugler. I agree with him. He put that Sanders has a B- level arm. I would agree. I would put it somewhere right around there. I think it's good enough for the NFL. Like, you look at Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy does not have a good arm. It's like C+, B-. But Purdy gets shit done. Some guys don't have great arms. They get it done. So I'm not like, I used to be a big arm talent guy. Like, that's why I fell in love with certain prospects, like even Anthony Richardson, who I do still like. But when I see a guy that can throw 65, 70 yards, I'm like, I'm a sucker for that. So I'm trying to kind of get away from that and look at guys who just play the quarterback position better. I think Shedur's arm is good enough. It's not going to be a guy who throws the ball Josh Allen level deep or Richardson level deep. It's not going to be that type of arm, but it's good enough. He's not big, which I guess that can be said for other guys. Like, I feel like Milroe's built well, but even Cam Ward is 6'2", 223 apparently. So Shedur's listed at 6'2", 215, if that. So it's like he's not the biggest guy. He doesn't have elite speed, but it's pretty good. It's like Caleb Williams type. He does have some like Caleb Williams traits to him, but he can definitely pick up a 15-yard scramble here and there. It's like, it's good enough. He does take too many sacks, and he's got to hit the hot read here and there. Like, there's times where he'll just hold the ball for too long, expecting to see something open. It doesn't happen. It results in a sack. Like, you got to just find your hot route, find your guy quickly, and just pick up. Like, he's got to take like the 3-yard passes, the 4-yard passes. Like, not everything's going to be a big play. That stuff can be coached though, so I'm not that concerned about it. So I would put it right now, like my listing, I would probably put Sanders first, put Ward second, Milroe third. That will change. I'm sure that will change. I doubt once March, April comes around, I might have the same order, but just based on how I saw it so far, that kind of looks like how I'm going to have it as for now. And I know it's not the same quarterback class as last year, which sucks, but I do think it's a good enough quarterback class where at least one of these guys will come through and probably be a solid NFL starting quarterback and maybe a great one. So Joe Schoen, being the GM, 12 months out of the year, scouting everywhere. He was at Colorado today. He has to find the guy. That's it. You have to find the guy. If one of these 3 quarterbacks I just mentioned are going to be franchise quarterbacks, you, Joe Schoen, have to find the guy. That is your job. There are some other guys. There's the LSU quarterback. I don't know. It's like Nussmeier or something. I don't think I've ever watched him. He's been hyped up a bit. There's probably some other guys. Who was it? Something Dart. I know he's been hyped up a bit. I'm not the biggest college football watcher throughout the year, so I'm definitely like just missing some guys here. But there are other names, of course. Carson Beck, which I saw a graphic that his ceiling is Daniel Jones, and I immediately was like, nah, I'm good. I have seen Carson Beck play before in some of the big Georgia games. I'm not that impressed, honestly, so I hope it's not him. So that's how I feel about those guys. That's how I feel about the Giants right now in their current state. I touched on everything I wanted to. I hope that by tomorrow or Monday, we see that Drew Lock is the starter and that Daniel Jones is shut down for the rest of the year. That would make the most sense, but the Giants, once again, don't do the most sensible things. So we're going to have to see about that one. And if Dable and Shane want to extend Daniel Jones, not extend literally, but like extend Daniel Jones as the starter and kind of hold up that Daniel Jones shield and be like, see, he's the problem, not us. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, let's get into the week number 12. 11 spread picks. All right, spread pick time. Last week I went 6-7. Not the best. I'm trying to see where I messed up. The Giants messed me up for sure. Obviously, Chicago, they messed me up pretty big. Minnesota, man, they went out sad. I mean, they won the game, but like they threw 4 interceptions Darnold had, or 3 at least, and like they won by 5. That should have been an easy win. Of course, Denver, they should have won. I knew that game was going to be close, too. I'm happy I got that right. Atlanta, they somehow lost that game. Who else? The Jets. The Jets are sad. Can't stand the Jets. Dallas was terrible. Houston won by, or they won the spread at least by half a point, so that's nice. Miami, I thought I picked the Rams, too. I was very happy when I listened back to it, and I was like, oh, thank you. I picked the Dolphins. So 6-7, 72, 64, and 4 on the year. Spread pick time for this week. Packers at Bears, the old rivalry. It's Packers by 5.5. I picked the Bears last week. Definitely regret it. They did fire, what the hell? Not Luke Getsy. That's the old guy. They fired Shane Waldron as their OC. So new offensive coordinator. I'm hoping things for the Bears will change. I do like the Packers a lot, though, and the Packers, I think, are coming off a bye, so I like that for them as well. So I'll take Green Bay here. They are -5.5 on the road, but I'll take them anyway. Packers for me. Jaguars at Lions. I mean, sheesh. Lions by 13.5, and I think that might not be enough. I'm going to take the Lions. I mean, the Lions, they've shown time and time again they will beat up on bad teams. They beat the Cowboys by a lot. They beat the Titans by a lot. They will beat bad teams. And like the Jaguars, I don't think they'll have Trevor Lawrence in this game. They'll have Mac Jones. It's just not going to be pretty. So I'll take the Lions by, I would say by at least 20. I think the Lions just will once again put up 40 plus and just have their way. So Lions -13.5. Raiders at Dolphins. Miami by 7. I like the way the Dolphins have looked recently. Even when Tua came back and they lost those first 2 games, they lost by like a field goal each time and sometimes by like 1 point. I know the Raiders are coming off a bye. They have a new offensive coordinator as well. I just don't love that team. It is Gardner Minshew. So I will take Miami here -7. Miami's due for one of those games where they just put up a lot of points and they win by a lot. I know the Raiders defense at times has looked kind of good, but I'm not like that concerned about it. So I'll take the Dolphins here by a touchdown. Rams at Patriots. I really have a bad feeling about the Rams. I don't know why. I feel this will be a letdown game for the Rams. They did play Monday. Now they're traveling cross country. So I just have that stuff in mind. I will take Patriots +4.5. I could see them losing by a field goal or 4 and winning this, but I don't know. I feel like the Patriots have a chance. So I'll take New England here, +4.5 at home. Browns at Saints, not Bears. Browns at Saints. Cleveland by 1.5 on the road. The Saints had a big win last week. I don't think that'll carry over. I know the Browns are coming off a bye. I will take the Browns. It is a Jameis Winston revenge game, the former Saint. So I do like the Browns here to win this game. It's pretty much a pick 'em, so give me Cleveland. The Colts at the Jets. Anthony Richardson is back. I'm not sure how he's going to look. It should be better. The Jets are just a sad football team. You got players going after people on social media. They're not going to make the playoffs, but they might finish the year somewhat strong. Their schedule is pretty favorable. I would think the Colts can keep it close, so I will take the Colts +4. If the Jets won by 3, I guess it's not too surprising, but yeah, I'll take the Colts. I think they're alive to win the game. 4 seems like a lot, so I'll take the Colts +4. Ravens at Steelers, a great one here. Baltimore by 3. The Steelers, it's a big game for them. It's a big game for both. I feel it's tough to pick against Baltimore. It really is. This should be a game where Russell Wilson can pass all over this bad secondary, but can the Steelers defense stop the Ravens? I mean, I feel like they do a pretty good job against Lamar, but the Steelers had their big win last week. They should not have won that game probably. So yeah, I'll take the Ravens. Ravens by 3 on the road. It's going to be a great game though. I'm excited for that one. Vikings at Titans. Minnesota by 6. I don't know what to feel about this. Sam Darnold has not looked good the past 2 out of 3 weeks. He's just looking like old Sam Darnold. So he's on a bad stretch right now, and I know Tennessee doesn't have L'Jarius Sneed on defense, so that concerns me. I guess I'll take Minnesota. I just don't love it, though. I feel like something's up with that team right now. It's just one of those, Sam Darnold's a very hot and cold quarterback. He'll be great for a month, horrible for a month, and right now we're on a bad stretch of Sam Darnold playing quarterback. So I feel a little nervous about it, but Vikings by 6 for me. Falcons at Broncos. Denver by 2. Look at that. So I don't know how to feel about the Falcons here. I can really see Denver's defense clamping down here and playing very well, but I don't know. I feel like the Broncos offense should be fine. I guess I'll take Denver. I could just see it playing out where the Broncos defense wins them this game. So Denver by 2 for me, although the Falcons obviously are alive to win that one. Seahawks at 49ers. It is San Francisco by 6.5. Wow. Seattle coming off a bye. They get Metcalf back. Their offense did not look as great without him, obviously. That's a lot of points. This game should be close-ish, so I'll take Seattle plus 6.5, but it should be a good game there. Chiefs at Bills. Here we go. Buffalo by 2. I have a very strong feeling about Buffalo in this game. I'm taking Buffalo to win this one. I feel like with the Chiefs, they've gotten away with so many close wins this year. They barely get by last week. I just feel like the Bills are the better team. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but I feel like the Bills are going to come out and play a much better game than them. And I would not be surprised if the Bills won this one by like 10 or something. It really would not surprise me. So I'll take Buffalo -2. They are home, of course, but I just think this Chiefs team is due for a letdown. So I'll take Buffalo here -2. Bengals at Chargers on Sunday Night Football. This is a fun game too. I feel like, it's Chargers by 2 is the spread, but this Bengals team is playing well. I mean, not record-wise, but they're playing well, like offensively especially, and the Chargers are playing pretty well. Both teams are over 500 against the spread, as you can see. I think I want to take Cincinnati. I want the Chargers to win. I do like the Chargers and what they have going on there, but I feel like the Bengals are due to win one of these games, so I will take Cincinnati +2, and they could lose by 1 and I still win, so that'd be nice. But yeah, I'll take Cincinnati here. I feel like they might be the better team. The Texans at the Cowboys, Battle of Texas. It's Texans by 7. Wow. CeeDee Lamb, I just saw, is on the injury report with a back injury, but he should be fine. Nico Collins is back off the injury report. So Houston by 7. It's a lot. I think Houston, just like I said for some other team recently, they're due for a breakout game. I forget who I said it for now, but they're due for a breakout game offensively. They get their number one offensive weapon back. I'll take Houston by a touchdown. It is a lot of points. I know Dallas is home, but Dallas is so bad at this point. They're just beaten down. I feel like they're kind of moving on to next year. Houston is 6-4. They have stuff to play for. So Texans by 7 for me. So that'll do it. I hope you guys enjoyed the bye-week edition of the MTN Giants podcast, and I'll talk to you guys next time.